Oh my god, there are just so many nerds in this nation. Makes me sick. Sick with joy. One Piece Chapter 226. Shoujou, the Salvage King of the Seafloor.
Well, hello, my brothers and sisters of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, here to bring you another review on the awesome, the tantalizing, the adventure-filled tale of One Piece. Our last chapter, of course, saw us with, Luffy and Zoro had gotten beaten up pretty bad by Bellamy and his crew, but that was mainly because Luffy had told Zoro not to fight back, not to act. So, really what wound up happening is they had an encounter with a man outside that I presume to be Blackbeard, and he kind of told them about, never let go of your dreams never die. And then really at the end of the chapter, we wound up going back to the Going Merry, and Usopp, Chopper, and Sanji, wound up kind of hearing or seeing that salvage. I believe it was the Masira, the Salvage King's ship coming back in, or something similar to it, because they were going salvage, salvage. That same song that was sung. And I actually missed that at the end of the last chapter for some reason or another. I was recording a few chapters that day, and for some reason it escaped me, and I thought it was Sanji that said it. But anyway, whatever. Not a big deal. So. That's where we left off, and that's where we pick up, is really Luffy and Zoro and Nami get back to the Going Merry, and and Usopp and Chopper are like screaming around like, "Oh my God, what happened to you guys? Doctor." Chopper's like, "Yeah, that's me." And, Nami's pissed off, right? She's really pissed off. She's very angry at Bellamy and his crew. She's angry that Luffy and Zoro didn't fight. And it's kind of funny because Zoro's like, "You're the one that made us promise not to fight," and she's like, "That's ancient history," And I mean, she's just really flying off the handle. And I think a lot of it came from, too, after they got their asses kicked and thrown out, Sarkis, the big knife, went and offered to buy her, So I don't think she took well to being, seeing her friends get beat up, not do anything about it, and then her get, treated like a prostitute. So that's just my opinion on that one. But so she's flipping out on everybody, and Luffy and Zoro are just, of course, they're the worst for wear. But that's just how Luffy is. So, and even Usopp's like, "What'd you fight, a giant monster and this and that?" And she's like, "No, it was other pirates and they kicked their asses," type of situation. So then Nico Robin appears, and if you remember, she had disappeared when they got to Jaya a few chapters ago, to Mocktown, and she reappears, and of course Sanji's like, "Oh, hi, you want some dinner first or a bath?" I'm sure he'd be happy to disrobe her and rub her back and maybe wash her front as well. But anyway, she they're like, "Where did you go?" And she goes, "I just went into town to get some new clothes and to find more out about Skypiea," right? And Nami's all pissed off still and everything. They're like, "Just stay away from her. She's not too happy right now," So Robin wound up finding out, I guess from somebody in town there. She shows the map of Jaya, and they're on the westernmost front of Jaya in Mocktown, and there's this bay in the middle of it. It's almost like horseshoe shaped, I guess you would say. And all the way on the other eastern side, there's an X mark there, and there's supposed to be this guy, this something Cricket, and he's supposed to be crazy. He was somebody that had big dreams, or something like that. Somebody that dreamt big, and he was so everybody thinks he's stupid and kicked him out of town. So that's where he is. So we wind up getting, then they're like, "Okay, great, well, that's where we're going," right? So next thing you know, we go and we're taken to out in the middle of, towards the easternmost area of the island, and we see this other ship, and we don't know what's going on with it. There's a number of these people, they almost look like monkeys. They're diving down, and they're like part of the sonar team, and they're calling out for different schools of fish and stuff like that are around for what they're going to have for dinner, I guess, because they're like, "Okay, this sort of fish," and they're like, "Oh, I guess we're having fried fish for dinner." Anyway, we wind up, then they go and they're like, they're calling out the sonar, and they're like, "There's a small ship," and and you hear this guy, and he's like, "Small ship, what are you talking about?" They're like, "Yeah, right at 12 o'clock. So it turns out it's the Going Merry, and Luffy and company kind of are like, "Oh, hey, look, it's a weirdo." It was really funny because I think it's Sanji's like, "Yeah, but I don't think that's the weirdo we're looking for," So they approach this person, and Luffy's like, "What are you?" And he's like, "I'm a human," And one of his little subordinates is like, "Don't make the boss angry," this and that. And Luffy's like, "Whatever, man." He doesn't care. And then they go and they show this guy, and he's Shoujou, the Salvage King, right? The Seafloor Salvage King. Bounty of 38 million berries, and he's obviously in charge of his pirate crew, you know, the Salvage King Pirates, what have you, the Shoujou Pirates. And this guy's just real goofy looking. He kind of looks like Humpty Dumpty, really. He's got this big sort of round head and everything, and this weird sort of almost, it doesn't even look like, almost like a doll-like face, I guess. And so anyway, so he's going back and forth with Luffy about things, and Luffy's like, listen, I just need you to get out of my way, man. You know, Luffy's just not in the mood. You know what I mean? We're just trying to get to here, and you're in the frickin' way, you know. And then he goes and he says something about, oh, and you know what's amazing? I'm 25 years old and I've never cut my hair. And they go and they show it. He's got this like flowing hair that's flowing down onto the deck of the ship. And a couple of different times during this conversation that he's having with Luffy says something that I guess, you know, would offend him or whatever. And one of his people are like, oh, geez, you know, don't say it to the big boss. And he's like, no, never mind. And then he says something to Luffy about, you know, you don't want to go in through the tunnel of anger, because then you'll just come out the world with a world of pain or suffering, something like that. You know, basically like a threat, like don't piss me off. And that's when Luffy's like, dude, you know what? Enough of your shit. Just get out of my way, man. You know. And then somebody goes and he's like, I think it's Usopp or one of them that were back on the Going Merry. They're like, hey, you know, he looks like Masira, and they mentioned that Masira, they saw his ship coming back into port and everything like that. This must be where these salvage people are from. So then you go and you see Shoujou, and he goes and he says, Masira, you know, like, you know him? And then Luffy's like, yeah, we kicked his butt. And he goes, you what? That's my brother, you know? He starts flipping out, and I'm like, oh, God. Right? And then Luffy goes, and he's like, but don't worry, he's still alive, you know? So this guy goes, and without even thinking, he goes, and he says something, sonar or whatever, right? And starts doing this thing where he kind of like yells into this microphone. And literally the sound waves are so loud that they start ripping apart parts of his ship, knocking his guys up into the air, and then tearing apart the Going Merry because they're within like this sonic sound range of his, you know? And I can't remember the name of the character, but there was a similar, it was Banshee in the X-Men, and I remember back when I read comic books from him, he had a similar power where he could basically like project this scream that could just literally just, you know, rip the hair off of your head and damage people, rip buildings apart. So that's this guy's power or whatever. And at first Luffy's like, oh wow, that's pretty impressive or pretty cool that he can do that, you know. And then Usopp's getting pissed because if you remember, the Going Merry's been getting beat up pretty badly over the last few, you know, ever since really Alabasta, it's been getting beat up pretty bad, and that's been a recurring theme, you know, is that the kind of like, hey, we're gonna need to trade up for a better model soon, you know, the ship is just going to hell. And Usopp's like, oh, my repairs are coming apart, the ship's pulling apart. Nami's like, we gotta back up, we gotta get out of the way, you know. And you know, we gotta back up and get out of this range of this thing, you know. So we're kind of left hanging with that and what's gonna happen with that whole ordeal over there. And then it goes and it takes us for the last couple of pages, and really the last chapter of this particular volume. And it takes us back to Mocktown. And back at Mocktown, in one of the local bars or hangouts, somebody that is talking to his buddy, and he's speaking about Nico Robin. You know, he's like, I met this beautiful woman, she's so sexy, and blah blah blah, and this is so beautiful. And you know, she was looking for this and that, and she was looking for information on Cricket, that, you know, that weirdo or whatever, whatever they call him, you know. And something about if you go there too, you'll be infected with his stupidity and everything else. But so anyway, the other guy that's talking to him is like, oh, okay, well, yeah, well, it doesn't matter anyway because that's where, you know, the Salvage King's area is too, and, you know, so kind of like, hey, whatever, they're going to get screwed anyway going there. But the bottom line is this whole exchange, and then they wind up talking about, I know she was definitely after the gold bullion, and then all of a sudden you go and you see kind of from the other end of the bar, you see Bellamy, the hyena, sitting there, right? And he overhears this about the gold bullion. So they're talking a little bit more amongst themselves. Oh, are you sure? Yeah, it must be. So then all of a sudden the chapter ends, and really the whole volume ends with Bellamy, and Bellamy just going, oh, what's this about the gold bullion? There we go. Here, I love this. Here, I'd like to, and because he overhears about Cricket, and he's like, I'd like to meet this Cricket. Tell me more. You know, so definitely things are going to get thick, and I was hoping that Bellamy would wind up getting his eventually, because you don't like to see anybody slap around our straw hat friends. But I guess we'll see, because for whatever reason or another, Luffy wasn't going to fight him in Mocktown. But maybe if this guy goes and comes at him again, you know, in the next volume. I couldn't even think to talk over here. It's one of those days, folks. Sorry. But if he winds up, you know, coming at him again, I'm thinking that Luffy is going to, you know, they're gonna go toe to toe, and Luffy's gonna gear up and knock somebody on his ass over there. So, but we still don't know the full extent of Bellamy's powers either. We just know that, you know, he just complete shitstorm, and just looked like a bomb had went off where he took out Roshio and his guys. So Who knows what his power is and how difficult of a battle it's going to be, but I feel a fight a-brewing. So, my chapter question is, and this is one that kind of goes to, to the goofball guy, that Shoujou or whatever. What do you think about this particular character? I have a feeling this is obviously not the last we're going to see of him or his brother Masira. But what are your thoughts on him, just as a character, the character that we've seen so far, and the design of him? What are your thoughts? Leave your answer to that question in the comments down below. Feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button if you should think that I deserve it, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We will look forward to catching all of you in the next one, Nation.
Yep, well, this here fella is, he's misplaced. He's from a popular series called Bleach.